Aloha, everybody. Welcome to this month's third Thursday. Just going to give it 1 second. Still have one person trying to join. Aloha, Monica. Good to see you again. Okay, welcome everybody to February's third Thursday. We have an exciting one for you today, but first we have an intro from the wonderful Carl Kim.
Hi, I'm Carl Kim. I'm the Executive Director of National Disaster Preparedness Training Center and a professor in the Urban and Regional Planning Department at the University of Hawaii. And I'm so glad to see you all and welcome you all to our third Thursday event. We started these third Thursdays during the pandemic. Well, actually, we were doing it before in person, but the virtual ones we started during the pandemic. And what we were trying to do was to also have a check-in with people. And I think even though the pandemic is over, I think it's still a really good idea to have a check-in with people. How are you doing? How are you feeling? What's the news that you're up to? And so that's one reason that we get together. And then we also try to organize some important topic to cover. And there's so many important topics to cover. And this one is of particular importance because it affects us directly in Hawaii. Right now, I'm actually in California supporting the state of California and others in terms of the damage assessments from the fires in Alta and Palisades. Um, but I did want to take this opportunity to first thank Amy, but especially Mia and Lisa for presenting and sharing this really important information that they're in the work that we've done collaboratively. And so with that, what I would like to do is turn it back over to Amy so that we can kick off today's session.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, for this February 3rd Thursday, it's entitled Empowering Communities Through Info Hubs. Lessons from Red Hill and the Maui Wildfires. We have Mia Camaros and Lisa Webster. Mia is from the Pacific Water Resilience and Security Program, Lead Water Resource Research Center. And Lisa is from NDPTC, or the National Disaster Preparedness Training Center, GIS specialist, and from the Hawaii Coastal Zone Management Program Analysis. So without further ado, Mia and Lisa, if you're ready, take it away. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will answer them when they are finished with their presentation.
Thank you very much, Amy, and thank you everyone for being here. Carl, thank you so much for the opportunity to join this third Thursday. It's my first one, and I'm very excited to connect with you all and to learn, and to talk story and to share what we've been doing. I'm really excited because this is truly a collaborative effort, and yeah, so Lisa and I are excited to talk story today. And with that, hope my slide is working. It's showing up. So, okay. So I want to start with, again, thank you again, everyone, for being here. And the reason I have this slide here because I want to highlight and underscore the collaborative effort of making the two hubs of this addressing two really major disasters in the last 5 years in Hawaii. And so this is a big, complicated, and really important issue, two issues really, but that requires, coordinated effort, communication and collaboration. And I want to acknowledge, and we're very grateful for all of the people and the organizations that are here. There are many more people, the community groups that have been so generous with their time. And knowledge sharing. And we want to acknowledge everyone that has been involved. So I want to start with our collaborators who really were instrumental and key to co-developing the two hubs. Oops. All right. Okay, and so a brief outline of what we're talking about today. So we'll talk about what is an info hub, why, for whom was it being made, and why are we doing this? We preface this in the title already that this is in response to two major disasters. So we built the Maui and the Red Hill and Maui Wildfires Research Hub. And then we'll talk about, again, the keyword here is collaboration, coordination, collaboration, and the key elements are coordination, communication as well, and how these have all come together to really enhance data sharing and understanding of data that helps rapid response and preparedness and building and enhancing trust within our communities here. And we'll talk about what's next, what we've learned so far, and where we see these efforts moving forward. And just a quick background on presenters today, so I'll pass it off to Lisa.
Thanks, Mia. Thank you, everybody. I got involved with the Red Hill project to start off. So I got involved with the Red Hill fuel spill crisis during my final year in the master's program at the University of Hawaii, the Department of Urban and Regional Planning. And I was hired as a graduate research assistant through NDPTC to look at the social and environmental impacts of this disaster. And I was lucky enough to get paired up with Kung Tron, who I don't know if is here. I hope he is. And the two of us found out pretty quickly that there was an ongoing effort at the University of Hawaii called the Red Hill Task Force, and researchers from different what they could do to help with this huge disaster. So just stepping back before I had started research on Red Hill, just as a concerned citizen, I had noticed that there was a ton of information about the disaster, but that it was sort of scattered all over in different places, hard to find and confusing. So, and I had actually already before that been working on building an Esri Hub site for a different project. And so thought that it might be helpful to build something like that for this. And the Red Hill Task Force members agreed. Next slide. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I was saying how awesome Lisa was and how fortunate we were with the UH Red Hill Task Force to have her, not only her, but we also got Kung, who's equally amazing with their really great GIS skills who really enhanced and pushed this information sharing forward, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But a little bit of my background. My background is in marine biology. So I'm a marine scientist. This is a photo of me sampling water in American Samoa. I used to serve as a research scientist, American Samoa Environmental Protection Agency. So I've always been interested in water and water quality, and people. And upon moving here in Hawaii, and starting working at the University of Hawaii, my first job was to be fuel crisis in 2021. And I served as the UH-led Red Hill Task Force coordinator. And this is being born out of, this is all coordinated out of the Water Resources Research Center, which is based at University of Hawaii at Manoa. A little bit of background of the UH Red Hill Task Force. So this was convened shortly after the November 2021 fuel spill. So right after the contamination crisis. Why? So it was a really important disaster, and the university felt responsible and had the concern and care to build this rapid interdisciplinary response for this interdisciplinary issue, right? And so as we started, we I'll just go back a little bit for the previous slide. You can see that there are many components to the Red Hill Task Force, and this really just shows the diversity of expertise needed and the network building and the partnership building that's needed to address such an issue, such a crisis. The volunteers, primarily it's volunteers that make up the Red Hill Information Hub. There's about, I think, 105 volunteers so far. But there are also UH students, staff, and faculty that make up the hub. And also, so what do we do? Primarily, it was research coordination, communication, ensuring that our efforts are coordinated and communicated effectively amongst different members of the UH system, but also importantly, that we are meeting with the community and addressing community's needs to see what the university is doing in response to this crisis. And also it is also to increase and enhance analytical capacity and again, thoughtful intention of engaging with the community. So that given that background on what the UH-led Red Hill Task Force is, I'll now let's pivot a little and talk about the main points today of an info hub, which is I'm sure a lot of folks here are very familiar with. So as we know, a hub is a central point, a centralized platform that's used to collect, store, and provide key information. And it's particularly in disaster responses and environmental responses. This is key to know who's doing what are they doing, where are they working, how are they doing it, so that we can better coordinate efforts. It is a hub is really a critical infrastructure for knowledge sharing and collaboration among diverse stakeholders, knowledge groups, and different agencies. And importantly, having a publicly enables and fosters this relationship building, fosters collaboration, coordination, and trust among diverse parties. And as we know, learning from the Red Hill contamination crisis, that trust, and especially that trust in the communities, that is really important in any effort moving forward from the crisis. All right, so the Red Hill, we know what happened in 2021. I won't go into this because Lisa will go over it in the Red Hill Info Hub overview. And really, as we convened the UH-led Red Hill Task Force, and Lisa and Kong joined us, and this was a collaborative effort with NDPTC. The development of the hub really was because it was a community expressed need. All along, as when this all happened in 2021, there was no centralized point of information. It was confusing, and so there's this really the community expressed a need for this hub, and also to have for this platform to come from a trusted source, such as the University of Hawaii. So what is the Red Hill Information Hub? Primarily, it highlights relevant and robust Red Hill and water resilience and security scientific research. So about the Red Hill disaster, but also on relevant information all across the Pacific region. It is also a hub for educational resources. So information sources across multiple data platforms, news and educational resources, peer-reviewed literature, reports, etc. It is also a place for training. So a place for community groups to inform us what they're doing, for us to have a platform for communication amongst. And lastly, it's the hub is for enhanced communication, for accountability, reporting, easy, to have it all in one place where it's easy to navigate, and it's also responsive to community needs. So who did we make it for? So the hub was made for the audience. The intended audience were students, researchers, government agencies, and community groups. It's used again to enhance communication, coordination, research, education, and community engagement. The outcomes that we would like for the hub to be was to enrich these collaborations between researchers, student projects, UH agency, research initiatives with federal, state, and government agencies, and to enhance this communication and coordination among these groups. And so we did, Lisa's going to talk more about this, but I want of people who we collaborated with. The development of the hub took over a year because it went through a really extensive feedback and presentation process. So we went to individual agencies. So, and this was intentional that it took time because we wanted it to be really thoughtful. We recognize the importance of this hub, and we wanted a diversity of perspectives, and we wanted transparency. So we over the course of the development, from the planning and the development and the content that's given, we included different voices, and it was important for us to have these different voices on the table. In addition to these agencies and different UH departments, we also met with community groups, which was very important. The Governor's Water Committee, we met with the Navy, we met with Centers for Disease Control. I cannot toxics. I'll put it in the chat once I remember in a second. And of course, the UH Red Hill Task Force. Again, I wanted to highlight that throughout this process of the development of the Red Hill Information Hub, it was very important for us that we, at every step of the way, involve as many diverse perspectives, and especially the community, in the development of this hub. Very quickly, just so we know what the feedback and review process that I talked about, with involving the diverse agencies and community groups and different knowledge holders, we asked folks for feedback for each of these interactions. So we asked, one of the questions that we asked, like, what type of materials and sources need to be included in the hub? What is relevant and what is pertinent of interest to you? We also wanted to recognize that we wanted to be this collaborative effort. So we wanted it to be complementary to existing efforts, to our partners, to students, to research agencies, to communities, etc. We also really wanted the hub to be useful. That is like the very clear intention that we have, that it will be useful to the community that asked for it. And it's and also, lastly, we also wanted it to be an iterative process, wherein if making sure that it is useful to the audience, the intended audience, and if so, ensuring that it's applicable and for a sustained period. Sustained period meaning then also thinking ahead of how can we better, just looking ahead, and how do we continue to enrich the experience of people using the hub. And with that, I just want to acknowledge that the lead developers of the hub are Lisa and Kung, and their incredible efforts in really making this massive and really important resource. So with that, I will pass it off to Lisa to give an overview of the hub.
Thanks, Mia. So yes, as Mia had mentioned, this was an iterative process. It started with Kung and I sort of putting together a draft version and getting Mia's input on what else to include and how to format it. And then bringing that draft to the Red Hill Task Force members and other interested community members that were sort of tangentially involved in the process, and getting feedback about what might need to be corrected, what we might have not remembered to include. Oh, Puanani has a question. It's actually met weekly for, I would say, almost probably it started meeting quite a lot before Kung and I got involved, but for at least a year they met weekly and discussed various sort of projects that were going on throughout the university, all voluntary from people who had other jobs, but basically a labor of love to try to help with this problem. So we were also part of the task force at that point. So we were sharing. Mia was the coordinator for the task force, and she was putting us on the agenda to have us present what we had, and then we were. So to do the iterative feedback process, we developed surveys, which we sent out to everybody in the task force and asked them to share out with other people they thought should look at it, and got feedback from them, and then incorporated that. So that happened 2 or 3 times. Um, and this process did take quite a while. It was about a year from the beginning of building the hub to getting it shared out publicly. You can see across the top that the hub has pages for data, news, ways to participate, educational information, frequently asked questions, resources, and an About Us section. And all of this is to provide the community, educators, and researchers with data, resources, and information. So do you want to jump to the data page? We can look at the so on the data page, we built a dashboard um, to this. So prior to Kung and I joining university system, because it included the Leeward Community College, is that right, Mia? Folks at Leeward Community College had begun an effort to take tap water samples from concerned residents in the area and run it through a fluorescent spectroscopy to look for fuel contamination. And so this dashboard shows indicators. On the left, you can see 235 samples were collected in total, and 20 positive detections were made. And at the bottom, there's a graph that sort of shows detections over time. And if you zoom in and out, you will adjust the indicators to the area that is visible. So this should be helpful to people in the area if they want to know about a specific. And at the bottom of the dashboard, you can see there are other tabs, and there is there's more information down there about impacted schools with the larger circles indicating larger numbers of students. So all of these schools were impacted and had the fuel contaminated water going into their systems. So there is additional information. If you scroll down, we have, so no, scrolling away from our dashboard, there's additional data. This is because there was data in so many places, we wanted to bring and point to data sources. So there's data for federal and state drinking water and groundwater monitoring dashboards, as well as public health survey information. I think that was all I was planning to highlight, unless Mia, you wanted me to, maybe jump to the education page just to kind of go over very high level what we included there. So the education page includes research projects as well as student research and curricula for educators, history and regional context links, as well as technical information and peer-reviewed research. So yeah, all of this is to try to provide information for the audience that we identified as needing information. And I think that's all I wanted to share about the Red Hub right now.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I think one more plug, Lisa, right, for the registry, about the
Okay,
link
yeah.
to registry.
Yes, so the Red Hill Registry to help impacted residents get connected to services and care for their ongoing health problems. We're linking to that registry site, and they can go there and sign up for email updates as it develops.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. So right now the Retro Registry is in the pre-enrollment phase. So if you want more information, you can fill out a questionnaire here and sign up for the email listserv. Additionally, the full enrollment will take place in July of this year. All right, so just going back to our slide here. All right, and so just as we were releasing to the public the Red Hill Info Hub in the summer of 2023, August 2023, we were hit by another major disaster, the Lahaina wildfires. And so there was another clear need to pivot and take what we learned and leverage our existing network to see how we can assist, how the university can assist with efforts in Lahaina. And so this led us to be active and engage with the all hands environmental response to Lahaina. So this was convened primarily initially by Tova Calendar, based out of West Maui Ridge to Reef, which is a nonprofit. And so this was convened shortly, a few days after the fires. And so this was people coming together, agencies. Again, it was reminiscent of what happened with Red Hill, where so many people and agencies wanted to come together to coordinate and collaborate. From Red Hill, especially with the Red Hill Task Force, we were able to effectively and also intentionally and thoughtfully come up with potential solutions that could help with environmental response. And there were two things that were coming out of UH. One of which was because of that already built network of researchers, agencies, and also that built trust among these groups with the Red Hill Task Force. We were able to quickly come together within the university and also in consultation with community members to come up with research initiatives that are relevant and that are community engaged research. So this was born out of this collaboration and coordination was 12 NSF funded projects, most of which are from led by. Additionally, and I'll pass this off to Lisa because she built this really awesome map, but through our involvement with the All Hands Environmental Response Group, we were able to hear again what the community expressed data needs are and how we were able to respond. So Lisa, off to you.
So basically, because there was already a Red Hill Task Force that had been created and had kind of continued to meet, although they had started to slow down on how frequently they met. After the Maui fires, that same group kind of came back together very quickly. It was already established. There was already a sort of a system and a framework, and so that was helpful. And then just brought in additional people who were environmental scientists and others that really wanted to be a part of that. So so originally we were thinking, well, we'll do something similar with this Maui hub as we did with the Red Hill Information Hub. But Maui County, probably because this wasn't as political as the Red Hill one, which was quite, I think, sensitive and political due to military interests, etc. This one, Maui County was really responsive, and they kind of built out information hubs that were very good very quickly. So although we were still like, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to help? There was, from Tova Calendar especially, but there was a lot of community, like just a strong need from the community to provide some kind of map that showed information about ongoing research in the area, who was doing it, where were they doing it, what were they doing. Um, so this was actually, which is this map and the site around it that I built, which allows you can open up a list of layers, turn them on and off, open up a legend, tells you what all of them are. You can, there's links to more information about the projects. And that was in direct response to requests from the community. So that app is just one part of the Maui Fires Research Hub, which is this site that Mia's on and is currently still in development. But it's being developed by Lauren Kaiser of PAC-IUS, who could not attend today, along with Mia and myself. And we are, again, using this iterative process to develop this site. And it's going to include data, information about ongoing research projects, and resources, or at least links to resources for impacted residents, which would include the Maui County uh, information that was developed. So if we take a look at the data, if you go to the data section and take a look, we have data for different types of things, and there's coastal water data, drinking water, groundwater, air quality, climate data, and social data. And so here, that is the oh, and as well as this is sort of a map of connections. Um, Mia might want to explain this better if she wants to, but all of these different needs and who's involved with those needs. It's hard to see the little circles, but there's different groups that are associated with the different needs.
So this map was developed. This is a stakeholder map. This was developed by Hulihia, based out of UH Maui College. And so this just shows the diversity of people, the involvement and the diverse group involvement in response to the Maui wildfires. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Mia. So if we go back up to that data tab or go up to the social and click on social, this was recently added. So within NDPTC, a lot of work was done on sort of geospatial data available. So scroll down a little bit. We created this was a effort with Kung and May Hamaguchi and Farnaz, who's a PhD student, and myself, and we created different story maps. So this is a story map collection that each story map sort of has its own focus. And there's also a summary that gives just an overview. So if we could jump into the buildings one, we might want to expand to make it easier. I'm not sure if you can now, but if not, it's okay. So this was developed by Farnaz, and this is a really interesting story map. I'm just going to highlight one. If you just scroll down a little bit more, there's a dashboard within this. Yeah, I think it'll be there. Just click anywhere in there. Maybe, yeah, it's okay. And then zoom up a little bit. So just to get a better understanding of where the buildings that were impacted by fire are located within Lahaina. The red buildings are damaged and the green buildings are undamaged, and that sort of polygon behind them is where the fire. So that really gives you an idea of how much of Lahaina was lost. And then if you go to the next tab, this breaks it down by the types of buildings, so by zoning type. And if you click on the left side on non-owner occupied or owner occupied, you can click in the red and it will just highlight where the non-owner occupied homes or apartments were located that were damaged, or you can click on the green to find out where the undamaged. And you can also just see that the greatest losses within the buildings would have been the residential, non-owner occupied and owner occupied. So this is just a way to explore and better understand what actually happened. But it's just still in beta version. So I don't know, Mia, can we share it today with folks just if they could just note that we're still in development? And then if we go back out of this story map, so there's a lot of other really great information in this story map, but for time's sake, we're going to just go to, maybe hit that little, oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, now let's go to the timeline story maps. This is the other one I'm going to highlight just because May, who's here today, is a GIS analyst at NDPTC, and she did this really, I think it's pretty amazing, this work. So this, if you could just scroll up a little so we can see the top of that. There we go. So she went through multiple different sources and reports to gather the information and create this timeline that shows you exactly heavy congestion was closed, locations of where down utilities, and then where people fatality locations, and sort of the timeline of when those things likely happen, as well as a model of the fire moving through that area. And this, I think, is very helpful. There's also this highlighted section, which is where most of the fatalities occurred, and it's likely due to limited ingress egress routes and the fire cutting people off. So the hope is that by taking a really close look at this data, people can plan for more resilient communities going forward. So that's really the hope. I wanted to say it for now. Thanks, Mia.
Great, thank you, Lisa. So now that Lisa has shown the two hubs, just get a couple more slides here to wrap up the talk and hopefully answer some questions later. So I'm sure that you're probably wondering why I keep showing these different logos. Again, it's intentional because we really want to highlight the collaborative nature of these efforts. This really is key. So collaboration and coordination have been really key to enhance engagement among researchers, students, government agencies, and also importantly, with the community groups. So bringing this all together required intentional and thoughtful collaboration and coordination. So what have we learned through these two efforts? One way again is to leveraging existing relationships helped us build and respond rapidly to the Lahaina wildfires, and also to respond with known tools, and also have these existing networks already to bring to the table for the all hands environmental response group. And also having these existing relationships also meant that we continue to build trust within our group, but also as we roll out into the communities, that they see us as a trusted member of the community. And also with these existing connections came new connections as well. And these, diversity of networks and information and connections really is key to addressing such big problems. Again, this was central to having a coordinated and intentional response. And this really is important because tragedy and going into communities, and also just being mindful of our situation and coming into a place. It's really important as we do this kind of work with the community. So it's really important for the university and for researchers to have this coordinated collective effort and be intentional about how you come in to a place. Also, that leads to a more thoughtful community engagement. So an engaged community leads to engaged data and responses and enhanced understanding of problems, and just a better outcomes when you are coordinated and they're thoughtful and intentional about how you proceed with work. And again, so this what this all means is that you have a strong network of data, the Red Hill Information Hub, and then the Lahaina Hub. So data and people hopefully are strong in place to respond to potential future shocks or crises. And so, what have we learned, and where do we see ourselves moving forward? Well, we really see the value of sustained communication and continued participation. We understand that, during crisis responses, a lot of folks here on the call know, there's rapid response. So there's really just like meeting every hour, every day. And then that can change as situations, as the crisis unfolds or changes when you move from to response and to more of a recovery efforts. And so this sustained communication and to ensure continued participation, it needs a driver, it needs a coordinator. So we really see the value of having, continued support for the driver and all these drivers working together in partnership. But it needs people supporting this. And there's also important, and we know this given the project-based nature of our work, that you have a project 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then it's done. But really, we see and envision this, and we have, as we plan this information hub, and that we want this to be a Kickstarter, and that we want to be creative in potentially leveraging the existing connections that we build and continue to build to continue to ensure continued support of these hubs. And of course, I really would just want to say that building relationships, like with the Red Hill Task Force and through the All Hands Response Groups, and going as Lisa said earlier, like going through each agency, like presenting the hub, getting feedback, just talking to people. This really requires a lot of time. We don't often factor the amount of time and effort, and we don't value this part of work, especially in like project-based work. But really, it's what makes it all the work more enriching and meaningful. So just putting in that time and effort to build relationships is really key. And lastly, sometimes we have to get creative. So right now we have these 2 hubs. This was, primarily volunteer based. We have had some support, but really we are in the process of just using our networks and getting creative. And that's the fun of being in a collaborative effort, because you can get these diverse inputs and advice on how we can be more innovative with nurturing these collaborations into the future. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity to speak at the Third Thursday webinar, to connect with everyone, and happy to answer any questions.
There are some questions in the chat. Oh, sorry, Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, first, thank you for a really great and informative presentation. Our previous Third Thursday was about the upcoming PRIMO meetings, the Pacific Risk Management Ohana, which was really set up to facilitate and sustain the types of communications and coordination and collaboration. And yet, due to a variety of disruptions, And so those of you who are planning and did not hear that the March Primo conference, well, it's not going to happen in March. And when we're going to postpone it and we're going to have it happen sometime in the future. That you talk about the Red Hill disaster or the Lahaina fires. Again, these were unplanned, but not entirely unpredictable sudden events. Similarly, a whole series of recent events have created a situation where we've had to adjust, mitigate, and adapt to the changing conditions. And I think the way that we do that is through this type of collaboration that is bottom up, that builds on existing networks. And so I think everything that you're suggesting is something that we really need to do. And I think one of the big challenges, and this is the question that I have for you, is that there are specific events and we build systems for that specific context. And but then we start all over again when the next event occurs. You have two very different events, the groundwater contamination and fire. Are there any lessons that you can share going across these really two different events that can that can help us in terms of sustaining this? Because so often, as I think you kind of mentioned, we respond to the particulars of the event. How do we really build and sustain and make the good work continue and connect us across these different places?
Thanks, Carl. That is a very thoughtful question. I will try to answer it equally as thoughtful as you asked. I think one of the ways that we could connect these two is to understand place-based experience, right? So what is it about the place that connects these two? Yes, they were very different. One is groundwater, contamination over the past 80 years. One is an acute event. However, those two things also have commonalities, such as the importance of water and the importance of the context of water in Hawaii. So understanding the historical context and also what are the different responses and harms and all of these the perspectives of the place is one way that you can situate in terms of being thoughtfully responding, understanding what the commonalities are. That's one thing that I think we are trying and in the process of doing. Another thing of a commonality is with that historical context is like what are the different drivers in history that are causal effects of these different disasters. Yes, they are different, and as you said, they are like they happened, but some of them are not entirely unforeseen events, right? So the contamination, yes, we could potentially like project that could happen. And I think having that baseline now of these commonalities, understanding place-based context, and the different drivers, what are the different that might be applicable to other places in the Pacific. You mentioned Primo, so American Samoa. One of the again, finding that common denominator, right? So potentially one of the is the historical, say, military contamination. And that ties to Red Hill, historical military contamination, historical agricultural practices that have caused these. So contamination is that underlying commonality as well that we can look at. And I think really, and I will, in summary, having that place-based context and having that just understanding where you're working, finding those commonalities and working with the people of the place is one way one way of moving forward effectively with disaster response and in coordinated, thoughtful response.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
And
that's
we,
really important. And I indices, right?
oh, what are those?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't talk
yeah.
about those anymore. Well, I just want to
Yes.
share also before we talk about that, you know, there were warning signs that for a long time. There were a lot of spills at Red Hill before this happened. There was, you know, Sierra Club that was trying to shut it down. And then with the fires, if you ask the fire experts and the NGOs that have been looking at fire, everybody said, well, yeah, there's always fires there. We knew there was going to be fires. It's not that these were like a surprise. These weren't really a surprise. I think what we have to do is look at policies moving forward. Look at where else are there. I mean, the problem was like with Red Hill, those were secret tanks for until the 90s or something. So nobody even knew where they were. But change the policies. Don't have underground fuel tanks above your aquifer. Like those should all be emptied everywhere. And with the fires, like change the rules for fallow ag lands so that uh, that it's if it's adjacent to a community, like change the laws and have there be some kind of, you know, you have to have a stick to make it effective, I think. And for social vulnerability, still looking at the trying to better understand with the Lahaina fire, it was almost all of the people who did not survive that fire were senior citizens. So it's like looking at where are there higher concentrations of senior citizens. Also looking at this ingress egress, where could people get trapped? And then I think going forward, there should be changes to developments to, you know, and I think there will be to increase the number of exits from a neighborhood so people aren't trapped. But also looking at how can you, you know, have a coordinated response to take care of the seniors who are going to need help to about in learning from all of this and looking at demographic data to help us better understand where we should focus those type of efforts. But I think that's yeah. There are other questions. I don't know if we're going to get to all of them, but Liz Fisher had a question about um, should we start planning and creating some sort of hubs that are ready or having this information but it's like which information should we have ready? Because I feel like each hub has a specific, it's addressing a specific need of a specific community. So I don't know. I don't know what we would put in those hubs or how we would think about doing that, but it seems like a good idea. Um,
Um, I think Liz Fisher also had a question earlier too, and I think that this aligns with what you just read out, Lisa. And if I may, so Liz, your question was, the comment was the info hub populating core data for each island and state, perhaps in partnership with Haima, DBED, etc. One way that we have been doing this, you know, this is a university-wide effort. And one way that, you know, we see our role as a university is to work with the agencies and say, this is what we can do. We want to, you know, incorporate your data. And we have been working in partnership with state and county officials on this. So for example, an example of this with the Maui wildfires is that we're working with Department of Health. And so they were developing a hub to store all their data, environmental data. And so we were working closely with them and showing them what our hub is in response to, like, you know, all these conversations along the way and what, you know, just the short answer is like, yes, we would love to create this for Island. We want this to be helpful. And from the unit, what we are capable of and how we can help advise the consultants that work at state or county. We are making ourselves available. Another example is that Lisa, Lauren, and I have been in conversations with DBET with the VI dashboard that's being in development right now. So again, just being part of being on the table and being able to talk about our experience is one way that we could help. But ultimately that also there's just the S word here, which is support, right? We need support and drivers in order for us here at the university to be able to push this forward. So we are, we want to collaborate and engage, but we also see us to move this forward really, and to have this dedicated project, it needs support as well. And I'll just answer because I see Heather at USPS's question here. We've been a partner with Red Hill and also with the Lahaina Wildfires. So they are, and if I didn't put their logo, I apologize if I for that oversight, but we are working with them.
Hey, Mia, Lisa, thank
Yes.
you so much. That was so informative. That was great. I encourage everybody to please sign up. We'll click on the link for the hub. And what was your plug, Lisa? That it was still in development phase? So everybody just remember that
Yes,
caveat.
it's still in development phase, and so there may be some links that don't work, etc. We're still rearranging things, but and a lot of one of the reasons why we haven't published it and shared it publicly more widely is because a lot of the research that we have highlighted in there is ongoing and they don't have results yet. So it's kind of, there's not a lot there yet, but we would like to share more of the results. We are also thinking about adding some information about demographics for Lahaina, which we're working on how to do after the transition to the new federal administration.
But not only the Wildfire Hub, but also please remember for the Red Hill Registry, that information hub as well. Don't forget that link as well. I know Mia has to run at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for your time. I know we didn't get to address all the questions listed here, but I did put it in the chat. We will make sure to write down all these questions and forward it to Lisa and Mia and make sure everybody gets a response. But thank you for attending this third Thursday. Our next third Thursday is March 20th. So just 1 month from now, and it's going to be on misinformation and disinformation. So very timely, very accurate. So thank you everybody for attending. Please be safe.
Everyone. Bye.